When we talk about strategy, most people imagine a single, neatly defined plan, a document crafted during an offsite, filled with milestones, KPIs, and bold intentions. But Henry Mintzberg, one of the most influential thinkers in management, reminds us that strategy is far richer and more complex. It's not one thing, it's five different things, each revealing a unique dimension of how organizations think, behave, compete, and evolve. Mintzberg's 5Ps, plan, ploy, pattern, position, and perspective, are not a checklist. They are five different lenses through which strategy can be understood and shaped. And once leaders master them, they unlock a far more realistic, holistic approach to strategic thinking. Let's break each P down, explore how they contrast, and understand why they matter in today's fast-moving business world. One, strategy is a plan. This is the most familiar and intuitive P. A plan is a deliberate, intentional roadmap, a course of action crafted in advance to achieve specific goals. Think of a company expanding into a new market. Leadership conducts research, defines objectives, allocates budgets, sets timelines, and outlines the actions required. Everything is tidy, logical, and structured. Plans are essential because they provide direction, clarity, and coordination. But they also have two weaknesses. They assume the world will behave as expected. They represent what leaders hope will happen, not what actually happens. Most organizations overestimate how much of their real strategy comes from planning and underestimate how much emerges in ways they never foresaw. 2. Strategy is a ploy. A ploy is a strategic maneuver, a tactic used to outsmart competitors. It's still deliberate, but unlike a long-term plan, it focuses on influencing rivals' decisions. Consider a simple move, a retailer announcing an upcoming store opening in a location just to deter competitors from entering the same area. Or now a classic business case. When the first iPhones launched, Apple didn't just rely on demand, they encouraged the perception of massive hype. Apple PR intentionally highlighted long queues, made sure journalists capture them, and sometimes even orchestrated the flow of customers to create the sense of the most desired device on the planet. It didn't deceive customers about the product. It simply amplified excitement and social proof. Ploys are clever, sharp, and often short-term. But there's a danger. If a company focuses too much on ploys, it ends up reacting to competitors instead of building meaningful long-term advantage. A strategy overloaded with ploys becomes noisy, tactical, and exhausting. 3. Strategy is a pattern. This is where Mintzberg gets truly interesting. A pattern is strategy that emerges from consistent behavior over time, even if it wasn't planned. Sometimes a company thinks it has a plan, but in reality, its strategy is revealed through the actions it repeatedly takes. A classic example is a company that never explicitly plans to become known for superior customer service, but through years of consistent behavior, hiring, training, and problem-solving, that reputation becomes its real strategy. The pattern becomes the identity. Patterns matter because they reveal the truth. They show what an organization is actually committed to, not what it claims in PowerPoint decks. And often, the most successful strategies are discovered in hindsight, not designed in foresight. 4. Strategy as a position. A position is how a company situates itself within its environment, the place it occupies in the competitive landscape. It answers questions like, who are we serving? What unique value do we offer? What space in the market do we want to own? Think of IKEA. Its position is clear, stylish, affordable furniture for the mass market, delivered through a unique customer experience and global supply chain. Everything connects to that chosen position. This P reflects a company's strategic choices about differentiation, market segments, value propositions, competitive rivalry, and competitive advantage. Position is the external, market-facing dimension of strategy, one that requires understanding competitors, customers, and the broader system in a given time frame. 5. Strategy as a perspective. While position looks outward, perspective looks inward. It is the collective mindset, the shared beliefs, values, and assumptions that shape how an organization sees the world. Perspective is culture elevated to the strategic level. For example, Tesla's perspective is built on a deep belief in innovation, disruption, and the urgency of accelerating sustainable energy. That worldview influences every decision, from product development to communication style. Perspective is powerful because it guides behavior even without formal rules. If plan is what leaders say, perspective is what people believe. and beliefs shape decisions long before any strategy document does. How the PS contrast and align. One of Mintzberg's greatest insights is that the PS not only explain strategy, they also explain why strategy so often goes wrong. Each P highlights a different strategic reality, and the gaps between them reveal where organizations stumble. Plan versus pattern. Most companies craft beautiful plans. Yet once you fast forward a few months and compare those original intentions with real actions, you start noticing that plans often fade while patterns dominate. Leaders respond to competitors, customers, crises, and opportunities, and in doing so, create new behaviors that were never in the initial plan. Simply put, a company may plan to become a premium brand, but eventually show a pattern of discounting to hit short-term sales targets. Which one is the real strategy? Always the pattern. Patterns expose what the organization truly commits to, not what it hoped to commit to. Perspective versus plan. A plan is a logical construct. A perspective is a lens, the worldview through which leaders interpret reality. And that worldview anchors thinking far more deeply than any planning cycle. Look at the current AI wave. Many CEOs are now planning their moves around AI because their underlying perspective tells them that the future will be shaped by machine intelligence. That belief system guides what they consider possible, urgent, or strategically necessary. Peter Drucker captured this perfectly. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Perspective shapes what plans even make it onto the table, and which ones quietly die before being discussed. Pattern versus perspective. Patterns reveal what an organization does. Perspective reveals how an organization thinks. Ideally, these two reinforce each other. The culture, meaning a perspective, encourages behaviors that form a strong, coherent pattern. But when they diverge, friction appears. For example, a company might preach innovation, meaning a perspective, yet consistently reward risk-averse behaviors or pattern. Leaders will feel an internal tension. The culture they say they want and the behaviors they actually incentivize don't match. The result? Confusion, cynicism, and stalled initiatives. A healthy strategy requires both mindset and behavior to tell the same story. Perspective versus position. This contrast cuts deeper than it seems. Position is outward-facing, a company's chosen place in a market. It's about customers, competitors, and value. Perspective is inward-facing, the collective mindset, assumptions, and beliefs that define how the company sees itself and the world. The challenge is that you cannot sustain a strong market position if it conflicts with your internal perspective. Consider a company positioning itself as an innovation leader while holding a deeply conservative, risk-averse cultural perspective. On paper, the position looks bold. Inside, the perspective pulls the organization back to safety. Over time, the promise to the market breaks, and customers sense the inconsistency. On the flip side, when perspective and position align, strategy becomes incredibly powerful. Apple's position as a premium, design-driven brand aligns perfectly with its perspective, an obsessive commitment to simplicity, aesthetics, and control. The market sees what the culture believes. Ploy versus position. A ploy is a short-term move to influence competitors. A position is a long-term stance about where and how the business will win. The two can complement each other, but when ploys multiply without a clear strategic position, the company starts playing a frantic game of tactical whack-a-mole. Imagine a telecom operator launching endless promotions to outsmart rivals, flash discounts, surprise bundles, time-limited offers. These ploys may work for a moment, but they do nothing to strengthen the company's position in the market. In fact, they can weaken it by training customers to expect deals rather than value. A strong position acts as a North Star. Ploys should support it, not replace it. Overall alignment. Ultimately, the strength of a company's strategy depends on how well these PS reinforce one another. The plan must be grounded in a realistic understanding of patterns. Ploys should make sense within the broader market position. The position should reflect the company's true perspective and identity, and the perspective should empower the behaviors, patterns, needed to win. Misalignment between any of the PS creates strategic noise. Alignment turns intent into advantage. Key takeaways for business leaders and strategists. 1. Don't limit strategy to planning. Plans matter, but the real strategy often shows up in patterns and what the organization actually does, not what it says. 2. Use the 5 PS as a diagnostic tool. When reviewing your strategy, ask yourself, which P is dominating? Which P is being ignored? 3. Pay close attention to perspective. Culture either reinforces strategy or suffocates it. A misaligned perspective will sabotage even the best plan. 4. Treat ploys carefully. Competitive moves are important, but should never substitute for building a strong market position. 5. Patterns are gold. Look for recurring strengths, behaviors, and customer responses. They often point to strategic advantages you never planned but can now leverage. Conclusion. Mintzberg's 5 Ps show that strategy is not a single concept but a blend of intentions, behaviors, competitive moves, market choices, and cultural beliefs. For modern leaders, this framework offers a clearer, more honest understanding of how strategy really works, not just in boardrooms, but in day-to-day decisions, habits, and mindsets. Master these 5 lenses, and strategy stops being a theoretical exercise. It becomes a living, evolving practice that truly guides how your organization wins.